Today, we're diving into some of the most baffling disappearances that will send chills down your spine. These cases defy all logic and continue to haunt investigators and everyone who hears about them. Stay with us as we uncover these terrifying real-life mysteries that remain unsolved and endlessly fascinating. On Christmas Eve of the year 1945 in Fayetteville, West Virginia, the Sauter family home was full of joy and celebration as they celebrated the night before Christmas. But things were about to change for them. On Christmas Eve, in the wee hours of that day, a fire tragedy struck the Sauter home. George and Jenny Sauter, with 4 of their children, George Jr., John, Marion, and Sylvia, successfully managed to escape. But 5 of them, Maurice, 14, Martha, 12, Louis, 10, Jenny Irene, 8, and Betty, 5, were believed to have fallen to the worst expected fate because they were never seen again. On that unfortunate night, the fire seemed to have started from George's office at about 1 a.m. Jenny woke up to the smell of something burning and quickly sprung into action to try to locate the cause. Upon reaching the source, she saw her husband's office ablaze, and she could not reach the telephone. Jenny quickly woke her elder daughter, Marion, who had fallen asleep on the couch, to wake up her siblings and get them safely outside. Marion, Silva, and the 2 brothers, John and George Jr., managed to escape. However, their father noticed his other 5 children missing, and he quickly tried to go back in the house to rescue them. George attempted to save them by shattering a window and slashing a slice of flesh off his arm. He couldn't see anything through the smoke and flames that had engulfed almost everything in their wake: the kitchen, the office, and his and Jenny's bedroom. When George tried to go to the attic where his children were, he found the stairs engulfed in flames. George hurried his way out, and with the help of his son John, they tried to use their truck to somehow reach the upper floor, but this attempt was not successful. Marion quickly ran to the nearest neighbor's house to contact the Fayetteville Fire Department, but received no response from the operator. When all the effort to contact the fire department went in vain, the neighbor decided to drive to the town and track down the fire chief, F.J. Morris. The fire department was just 2.5 miles away, but the crew arrived around 8 a.m., by which time the Sauter's house had been reduced to a burning pile of ash. And in the end, the Sauter family could do nothing but watch as the flames engulfed their house and only the foundations remained. Later on, many searches were conducted, yet they could not find any bones or remains of the children in the ashes. The searches concluded that the fire had entirely incinerated their bodies, but the Sauters did not accept this. Following this tragic event, George and Jenny saw several rather eerie events. The telephone wire had been severed, a barrel that was generally placed by the house was gone, and a woman said she saw the children driving by in a car. These odds added up in the minds of the Sauters, and they suspected that their children could have been kidnapped. Frustrated, George and Jenny put up a billboard appealing for information with a considerate amount of money being promised to whoever was willing to help. They also employed detectives, but the mystery was taken to the next level. Informants placed the children at different places, though these leads did not produce any fruitful result. Experts also cited the reports from some relatives that they saw the children with some unknown individuals, further supporting the family's idea of kidnap. Later on, after several investigations, more alarming facts continued to build up. Jenny reported that before the fire had started, she had come across some strange occurrences. Around midnight, she heard the telephone ring. Upon picking it up, she couldn't make out what the other person was saying and wanted to speak to someone who wasn't even a part of their family. Jenny excused herself, saying that the caller had the wrong number, but the caller just laughed and hung up the phone. Later at night, she heard thumps on the roof just before the fire started. The neighbors exclaimed that they had seen fireballs being thrown on the rooftop, which were later discovered to be pineapple bombs, which were used in warfare and could have been the source of the fire. Yet the police were adamant that the fire had started from the severed telephone line. Many theories have arisen following this incident. Some people believe that someone had consciously started the arson and it was not an accident. Other theories surfaced, including the mafia and child trafficking, but no solid evidence has ever been provided. The strange part of the story is that for a long while, people continued to report the sightings of children in different areas, but the searches led to a cold end. 20 years after the accident, another strange event took place. Jenny received an email, solemnly addressed to her. It was postmarked in Kentucky without any return address. Inside the envelope, she found a picture of a man in his mid-20s. On the back of the photo, a handwritten note read, "Louis Sauter, I love brother Frankie. I lil boys, A90132 or 35. Both the parents couldn't ignore the likeness to their son Louis, who was 9 at the time of the fire. Aside from the obvious resemblance, they shared the same straight, strong nose and upward tilt of the left brow. They once again engaged a private detective and dispatched him to Kentucky, yet they never heard from him again. The truth about this incident was never found, but the story left a haunting impact on the Sauters and its listeners. Was this all planned? Was the fire started deliberately to take revenge on the Sauters? No one seems to have answers or proof to these questions till date. Emmanuela Orlandi was a 15-year-old girl from Italy and resided in Vatican City. She was last seen alive on June 22, 1983, leaving for her home after the music lesson. Emmanuela had worked at the Vatican with her father, and when she disappeared from one of the most fortified zones in the world, raising concern and suspicions. The Vatican, which is usually very secretive, was right in the middle of a media storm as the search for Emmanuela started. The preliminary search was carried out rather quickly, but however proved non-productive. Even with all the inquiries and many supposed leads, there was no real information leading to Emmanuela's vanishing. It went viral within a few days, with ideas that she may have been kidnapped by a rival, or perhaps it was a political scheme. Some people suggested that Emmanuela disappeared in the framework of a political operation, similar to when Mehmet Ali Agca attempted to assassinate Pope John Paul II in 1981. On the final day anyone saw her, Orlandi contacted her sister after music class to inform her that an Avon Cosmetics representative had offered her a job. When Orlandi did not come home the next day, her parents contacted the instructor from her class and the police. Her inexplicable disappearance was reported as a missing person case that day. A witness first claimed seeing a female matching Orlandi's description enter a green BMW near the music school on the night of her abduction, but this information proved useless. Shortly after this disturbing revelation was revealed, the Orlandis got an ominous phone call promising to return the daughter, provided the Vatican freed Mehmet Ali Agca, a Turkish man imprisoned for attempting to murder the Pope 2 years previously. Unfortunately, such development also proved unsuccessful. It has been reported that the Rome-based criminal organization Banda della Magliana abducted Orlandi to force the Vatican to repay an unpaid payment. The girlfriend of the criminal organization's boss, Enrico De Pedis, later claimed that De Pedis informed her that Orlandi had been kidnapped and murdered. Over the years, there has been the development of several theories. The intricate scheme implicating Vatican and international triptych conspiracy theory is most famous and widely discussed as the probable cause of Emmanuela's disappearance. Some people think that she probably has been a victim of a more targeted crime, which could possibly have been committed by those who are within the Holy City of Vatican. Due to the absence of concrete proof, more hypotheses and conspiracy theories have been created, making the case even more mysterious. The most extreme hypotheses, however, hold that the Vatican, local police, and prominent politicians kidnapped Orlandi and forced her into sexual service. At least, that is what Vatican's leading exorcist, Father Gabriel Amorth, believes. Amorth was appointed by Pope John Paul II. Amorth argued that the crime had a sexual purpose and that the parties were planned, with the Vatican gendarmerie serving as the recruiter of the girls. The network included diplomats from a foreign embassy in the Holy See. He feels Emmanuela became an innocent victim of this circle. That is why recently and even now we see new information on this topic, and the interest in the fate of Emmanuela has grown again. In 2018, the Vatican opened its archives, and in a tomb within Vatican City, some bones were found, which, however, were not confirmed to be of Emmanuela. Thus, the controversy continues to this present day, because the Vatican and some other governments are still to come out with clear findings. The theories about the Vatican involvement are numerous and complex, with no definitive evidence linking any specific groups to her disappearance. Tara Calico, the 19-year-old college student from Belen, New Mexico, went missing on September 20th, 1988. Tara departed from her house in the morning, intending to go for a bike ride along what she frequently used, New Mexico State Road 47. She had told her mother to look up for her in case she didn't come back till noon. Her mother advised her to take some self-defense items due to the past events of being followed, which were reported by the neighborhood, but Tara declined. Her mother, Patty Dowell, became concerned when she did not come home by noon and went to look for her. She did not see Tara. The only things that remained in spite of her disappearance were parts of the Walkman and a cassette. Even though police and Tara's friends went on quests to search for her, she has never been found. The case then took everyone by surprise. After almost a year, a photograph of a young woman and boy with hands tied behind their backs and a tape on their mouth was found in a Central Florida parking lot. The photograph showed that the boy and girl were lying helplessly in the back of a van. The woman in the photograph looked almost similar to Tara, and this led people to conclude that she had been kidnapped. However, even after dissecting the information in the photo to the minutest aspects and exposing it publicly, the people in the photo have not been identified. Calico's mother, Patty Dowell, believed the photo was of her daughter until her last breath. As the case went unresolved in the age of internet-enabled amateur investigation, the image gained attention under foreboding titles like "A Teen Girl Was Kidnapped," and the only evidence they found of her being alive was a horrifying Polaroid. Authorities, however, were never certain that the photo was related to Calico's case. It was examined at least 3 times, including by the FBI, which believed it was not Calico, but could not be confirmed at the time. Meanwhile, Scotland Yard in the United Kingdom confirmed it was her. According to Lieutenant Rowland, the lead investigator, Calico went missing within a 20-minute window from when witnesses saw her on the road to when her mother went looking for her. Witnesses reported seeing Calico on her bike, but being closely followed by a light-colored old 1950s Ford truck with a camper shell and New Mexico plates. People who had seen her being followed by that truck grouped together and helped the police in putting together the sketch of the driver. The driver was believed to be in his late 30s or 40s in 1988. It described a white or light-skinned man with red or brown hair. However, to this day, neither that driver or the van has been spotted. The motor vehicle in the photo was identified as a van, and information about numerous vehicles began to stream in. However, answers were not as helpful. Calico's family came forward soon, claiming the girl in the photo resembled their lost daughter. Another New Mexico family felt the same way about the little kid, believing it was their missing son, 9-year-old Michael Henley. Later on, Lieutenant Rowland confirmed remains of the boy suspected to be Michael Henley, seen in photograph along with Calico, 2 years later that he had died of exposure in Zuni Mountains. Rowland said that further investigation called into doubt what the Polaroid actually portrayed. For example, the young woman's hands do not appear to be securely bound together, and her shoulders do not appear tense, as they would if her bindings were severe. Rowland noted that there was no redness surrounding the tape in the children's lips, indicating that the tape had not been on their mouths for a lengthy amount of time. To this day, neither the boy nor the girl in the photo have been properly recognized. For the years, there have been so many theories and leads in an attempt to explain what really happened to Tara, but all in vain. Some think she was knocked down by a vehicle, and the incident concealed by those implicated in the act. Some people are forced to theorize that she was kidnapped by strangers and taken to a different and unknown region. The case has had a number of different opinions. However, to date, and despite this, No resolution of the case has been made, and there's no physical evidence. Later on in 2008, the case was reopened by Esquibel, who was a former classmate of Tara and a filmmaker. She wanted to keep the story of Tara forefront, which led her to make a podcast called Vanished, with the aim to help law enforcement. Luckily, the podcast helped. People started coming in and leaving tips and hints, which gathered quite a lot of information the authorities had either skipped or didn't take into consideration. Following this, one of the previous investigators, Flores, brought in some new information. According to investigator Flores, additional investigative papers have been lost throughout the years. He stated that this includes evidence and instances he believes were linked, such as a narcotics ring he was investigating soon before Tara's disappearance at the Rio Communities Motel. He stated that they discovered a vehicle and a luggage with telephone wire, hinting it had been used to tie up someone. Flores also reported how the department casually answered his question when he asked what they had done with the suitcase. They replied, "Oh, we destroyed it." It was possible that they could have found some forensic evidence in it. Even after all these years, he wonders if it was linked. The hotel was close to Tara's final known location. This prompted the people to conclude that the department was corrupt. As for the family, Tara's family has remained very aggressive in their search for the truth. Patty, the mother, believed in the likelihood of Tara being alive and went searching for every lead she came across. This determination still drives the attempts to solve the case even after the death of Patty in 2006. On a warm evening of May 25, 2003, the world saw one of the most bizarre aviation events. This is the story of Ben Charles Padilla, a man of interest in the world of aviation mysteries and missing people for more than 20 years. The crisis started at Angola Airport, known as Luanda's 4 de Fevereiro Airport. Ben Charles Padilla was a mechanical and flight engineer in that airport. He got a job in a Boeing 727-233 and was assigned to fix this commercial airplane that must have known better days. The plane, under registration number N844AA, had not taken to the air for more than a year because it needed high radio frequency and hence was not permitted to take off. For it to be in a condition that was presentable for business, it required repainting, repair work, and overhauling in many areas. Padilla, with the team, was given the challenge of getting it airborne again, which he proceeded to do. But that changed on May the 25th in the year 2003. Something still unexplainable to this very day happened. In the evening, Ben Padilla was observed together with another Congolese, identified as John Mutantu, a mechanic to have boarded the plane together. A few minutes later, by some strange occurrence, the plane's engine roared to life, something that was done without following the necessary procedural requirements. This gigantic jetliner started moving on the runway. The Boeing had no working lights, and there was no signal from the control tower for the takeoff. Padilla and Mutantu suddenly found themselves in the air. The unfortunate incident was that the plane was never seen again. There were many reported cases of immediate search and rescue missions, but unfortunately, the plane was never seen again. Some hypotheses of speculations, which were presented in theory, began to arise, each horrific than beside. Could it be that the plane was stolen for an act of terrorism? Was it the case of hijacking gone wrong? Or maybe something much more sinister? Although investigations have been conducted by different agencies, no concrete evidence has been produced. It was later reported that initially when the Boeing 727-233 proceeded to swing and strobe entering the runway area, radio tower officers tried to make contact with the aircraft, but did not receive an answer back. Just before takeoff, the aircraft was refueled and now carried 14,000 gallons of jet fuel, giving it a flying range of about 1,500 miles. It could only get so far. It left the airport with lights and transponders switched off and flew to Burkina Faso. The last transmission was for landing in Seychelles, but there was no confirmation of these locations. The voice which asked permission of landing was also not identified. The disappearance of the airliner sparked widespread media coverage. According to early accounts, the jet was on its route to Burkina Faso, a landlocked country in West Africa. Then other publications stated that the jet had made contact with an airfield in the Seychelles, an island country off Africa's east coast. The jet supposedly asked permission to land on the main island, but it never did. However, Seychelles officials denied that they had heard anything from the missing 727. In either case, the jet would have needed to refuel somewhere on Africa's continent before arriving at either destination. However, no country confessed to sighting the aircraft, let alone refueling it. Ben had a license in aircraft mechanics, flight engineers, but it's not possible that he could fly a Boeing 727, neither could his teammate John. Furthermore, to fly, 3 people are needed to operate the plane, but only 2 people were present at that time. Maury Joseph, who was the owner of the plane, is said to have been involved in document forgery and investor fraud, so the American authorities assumed that this was financial scam, whereas Joseph disagrees and thinks that this was the terrorists' hijacking. Ben is now considered deceased, and the FBI wrapped the case in 2005. The aircraft and Padilla disappeared on May 25, 2003. Despite extensive searches, no trace of the plane or its occupants has ever been found. So the question still lingers to this day. Had the plane been stolen for a covert operation? The family of Ben Charles Padilla still hopes to receive the news of their long-lost family member. The haunting question lingers. What could have happened on that haunting night of 2003 that led the men to disappear without a trace? Thank you for joining us on this chilling journey into some of the most unsettling disappearances that continue to haunt our collective conscience. If these stories left you as intrigued and unnerved as they did us, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new mystery. And remember, the truth can be more terrifying than fiction. Stay curious, stay safe, and until next time.